Good morning, dear children. Hope everybody is fine and healthy. Let us start the chapter Composition and Structure of the Atmosphere. That's the chapter number 3, page number 22. Today we will only be doing the revision of the entire chapter, and after that you will be attempting 10 questions from the worksheet. The first 10 questions in the worksheet you will be attempting during the class. After this revision video, you will be attempting that, and then the rest of the 10 questions in the worksheet, you will be mailing them by Sunday evening. Let us begin with the revision. The first and foremost thing you need to know in this chapter is what is the meaning of gas. Because when we'll be talking about the atmosphere, majorly we'll be talking about the gases present in it. Here, when we talk about the gases, we need to know the basic properties, which I am very sure all of you are aware. The first and foremost property, the gases have a they do not have any defined volume, they do not have a defined shape, and all the gas particles are placed at relatively large distance from each other. The particles of the gas are in a constant state of random motion, which cannot be stopped at all. So they continue to move around randomly and collide with each other and the walls of the container which we try to contain them in. So now that we are aware of the properties of the gases, let us understand what else is present in the atmosphere apart from the gases. So when we are talking about basically about the gases, we need to know that 78% of there is nitrogen and 21% of oxygen is there. And for that, most of you have already drawn the diagram in your notebooks, which is this one. We had done that a long time back. So here we need to understand the atmosphere. If you call it a definition, it is one of the major reasons for the life to exist on the earth, and this entire planet is encompassed by the blanket of gases called the atmosphere. That most of the gases are colorless and odorless, and therefore if you also define the atmosphere as a mixture of many colorless and odorless gases that surround the earth, it will not be marked as incorrect. Here we also need to understand that apart from the gases, the atmosphere is also containing a lot of the other elements. That is the element of hydrosphere in the form of water vapor and the element of lithosphere in the form of dust particles and smoke or soot, etc. So if I ask you about the question of gases, that will be the names of the gases. Elements will be your water vapor, dust particles, and smoke and soot. I hope everybody has marked this diagram, made this diagram and learnt it by heart by now. Here again, you have the definition of the atmosphere and the reasons being mentioned as to why the atmosphere is so important. Number one, it has the major gases named as oxygen and nitrogen, which are actually the life-supporting gases for the plants and animals. Without these two gases, without nitrogen, neither of the plants can grow at all, and without the oxygen, human beings cannot survive, and the animals also cannot survive. So number two, we'll be talking about them in detail, but here we need to know the basic pointers. Number two, it protects the earth from the harmful ultraviolet rays and the infrared rays of the sun, which give many diseases to the human beings, and they might also be as lethal as possible. They can be termed as the skin cancer and the other cataract problems, the eye problems. There are umpteen number of problems which occur due to the infrared rays and the ultraviolet rays of the sun. Number three, it helps in retaining the necessary warmth on the earth. Without this blanket, our earth would be very cold, and there would be no heat to keep us warm so that we can survive. Our bodies need a certain kind of a temperature to survive in, otherwise it becomes unbearable. And here the next one says it helps in the circulation of water vapor, that is the source of rainfall. The cloud condensation, cloud formation, all is happening because of the atmospheric layer, and it keeps the water in a circulation. That is the water cycle, and we all know about it because that is the basic information. Now here the atmosphere contains gases. This pointer is not written in your book, but you should know that it also helps us to hear. Without the air, we cannot hear anything, and that is a major problem on the other planets and the other places where you don't have a certain kind of an atmosphere or the gases are there. You cannot hear each other. Even if you are standing next to me and I'm talking to you, I will not be able to hear you without the possibility of the air around us. And all the layers of the atmosphere are contributing in a specific manner to make the planet Earth a safe planet for us to live and for our survival. We will do all the details of the functions of the layers when we are doing them one by one. Here again, after the discussion of the importance of the atmosphere, we need to understand that what are the basic important functions of each gas in particular. When we talk about nitrogen content 78%, so it actually helps in the growth of living beings. It is essential, as I said. Plants obtain it from the soil, and animals take the nitrogen into their body by eating the plants or the other animals. Some are carnivorous, some are herbivorous. So indirectly, they have the need for the nitrogen, which is fulfilled by the nitrogen present in the air, and it actually is there in the soil. So the plants absorb the nitrogen from the soil. Next comes oxygen. Again, it helps the entire human race and the animal race to breathe, and it is also very essential for burning. Without the oxygen gas, nothing would burn. And oxygen in the form of ozone layer, that is O3, is present in the atmosphere, which protects the earth from the ultraviolet rays and infrared rays of the sun. And I would like everybody or any one of you who actually knows in which layer is the ozone layer present, in which layer of the atmosphere is the ozone layer present. If you can mention that, I'll be very happy, and happy to know that you are actually listening to the video. That is why I'm putting up this question. Next comes your carbon dioxide, which is also the most essential gas present on the earth. This is a colorless and odorless gas. It is produced by all animals, fungi, and microorganisms during respiration. And the plants have actually the utmost use of it, make utmost use of it during photosynthesis. And that is the reason we keep on planting more and more trees around us, so that we get the oxygen back from the plants, while the plants are absorbing all the carbon dioxide to produce their own food. Then it also helps in the absorption of heat and keeps the earth warm at night. Why? Because as we have already done it in the greenhouse gases chapter, carbon dioxide is a gas which continues to capture the heat in the earth and it is one of the greenhouse gases. That is why it is also termed as one of the greenhouse gases, because it captures a lot of and retains the heat. It helps in creating a greenhouse effect, and it has been explained many times, so I'm skipping that. And why is the greenhouse effect important? Because it helps us for our survival on the planet, because otherwise the earth as a planet would be extremely hot to live on. Now, elements of hydrosphere and lithosphere we have already discussed, that is the water vapor and the dust particles. Coming next to the structure of the atmosphere. Now, this structure of the atmosphere is given as incomplete, or some parts are also incorrect in your textbook, specifically the line of the troposphere, which is not made slanting, it has been made straight, whereas you can see it in this diagram, it is 8 to 18 kilometers. I hope everybody has the PPT already, in which they were given this diagram in the month of approximately, I think May we had done this chapter, and that is the reason I'm doing the revision. Now moving ahead to the structure of the atmosphere, it has 5 concentric layers. Now if you say concentric, it means rigidly all a circle, but no, it's not a complete concentric layer, because these are gases, and as we said, the gases continue, the gas dust particles continue to move. So here when we are talking about the first layer, we should know about the troposphere. The first layer is known as the troposphere. Now this is the lowest and the densest layer of the earth, because it is the lowest one obviously. And then the most important things to know about the troposphere is that the height varies from 18 kilometers at the equator to 8 kilometers at the poles. Now poles, I'm talking about the north pole and the south pole, and this variation is very important. This difference is very important for you to learn. Then we have in the troposphere, the temperature decreases with the increase in height. This decrease in temperature is known as the normal lapse rate. Now, this lapse rate definition has to be learnt by heart. Please make sure you learn it. It's very important. There are many application based questions which are in terms of the lapse rate. So make sure you have understood it and learnt it. Then comes your the temperature variation within the troposphere is responsible for all weather phenomena such as the cloud, rain, and the storms. So, if I ask you a simple question as to why do we have all the weather phenomena in the troposphere and why not in the stratosphere, then you should know what is the major reason, that is the temperature variation which is there in this layer. The next layer that we are going to discuss is our stratosphere, and this is most important because of the presence of the ozone layer, and therefore this layer is also known as the ozonosphere. Because why is the ozone layer? Because it absorbs the ultraviolet rays of the sun, which can be very harmful to the humans and the animals, and it actually helps us in our easy survival. Otherwise, we would be getting many more diseases like the skin cancer, cataract, etc. The stratosphere is almost without clouds due to the absence of water vapor. Very important because of low temperatures in the tropopause. Therefore, it has no weather phenomena, which is an ideal condition to fly airlines. So, if I ask you a major difference between the troposphere and the stratosphere, here is a blatant difference that one has the weather phenomena and the other does not have. The next layer is the mesosphere. Now this layer is also very important, but the major importance of this is because that the meteors burn up in this layer. Why are they burning up in this layer? Because of the presence of the atmospheric gases which cause friction, and therefore when heat is generated they cause the meteors to burn and burst out in this layer itself, saving the entire earth from huge chunks of rocks landing onto their surface. After the mesosphere, we have the next layer, that is the thermosphere. Now, the most important thing you need to know about the thermosphere, that it has two major things. One is the ions, which compile to form the ionosphere. Ionosphere, basically, ions are basically the electrically charged particles which help in the transmitting of the communication signals and the communication satellites orbit in this layer. You must be thinking, what is the communication satellites doing? Now, communication, as you all know, they are basically the television satellites sending the television signals directly to the homes. But they also are a backbone of the cable and the network, entire telephones, your mobiles, your entire navigation system. Weather forecast also can be done from them. Basically, they tell us all about the climate and the environment. They continue to monitor it. They are also very useful for our safety. That is, they monitor the ocean and the wind currents. They help us remain safe. Now, the ions also create a sheet-like display of the light known as the aurora borealis in the northern hemisphere and aurora australis in the southern hemisphere. Now, these ions, they reflect the radio waves back to the Earth's surface, which help in transmitting the communication signals. So, this layer is actually very important. Here is a beautiful picture of the aurora in the thermosphere. Then comes the last layer, that is the exosphere. Now, this is the uppermost layer of the atmosphere, and we know a little about it. But we basically know that hydrogen and helium are the main gases found in this layer, and they are also found in very small quantity due to the absence of the gravity, and these gases are very light, so they tend to move upwards. These are your 5 layers. which we have discussed. Now comes the time for a little quiz, that is, identify the gases present in the atmosphere from the given list. Now you will write all the gases that you think or you actually know are present in the atmosphere in the GCR and in your notebook. For your homework, you will be doing question numbers 11 to 20 in your textbooks, notebooks, and for the classwork, you will be doing the first 10 questions. As I said in the earlier portion of the video, please do the homework, mail it to your teachers. Definitely mail the classwork and the homework by Sunday evening. Thank you, class.